Picture it. We're in the early 2000s. There is this time when pulling a very specific device out of your pocket meant, well, you truly made it. Presidents carried them, CEOs literally depended on them to run empires. Celebrities flaunted them, and even global governments trusted this tech with their most closely guarded secrets. We're talking about an era where one single device wasn't just, a piece of hardware, it was the ultimate symbol of success. So let's jump right into this explainer and unpack what has to be one of the most dramatic business mysteries of our lifetime. Because here's the crazy reality. Just a few short years after reaching the absolute peak of cultural and corporate dominance, the very company that practically built the mobile business world found itself fighting for its literal survival. Which brings us to the core conflict of our story today. How on earth did the king of smartphones lose its throne? How does a massive company go from absolute unstoppable market dominance to being entirely unseated? Section 1. The problem worth solving. The birth of research in motion. To understand this, we've got to transition back to 1984. Picture the freezing, snow-covered streets of Canada. Two engineering students, Mike Lazaridis and Douglas Fragan, decided to found a scrappy little tech company called Research in Motion, or RIM for short. Their vision was surprisingly simple, but honestly, pretty profound. Make communication faster, safer, and more reliable. And here's the thing, they weren't originally trying to build cell phones at all. Actually, scratch that. They were just laser-focused on a highly specific problem. As the business world was getting more and more connected, roaming executives desperately needed reliable, secure access to their email on the go. Existing mobile tech just couldn't handle it. RIM didn't care about chasing entertainment. They wanted to totally lock down productivity. And that startup phase, man, it was a steady, deliberate grind. Even though they founded RIM in 1984, it actually wasn't until 1999, a full 15 years later, that the very first BlackBerry was officially introduced to the world. And let me tell you, it was definitely not flashy. No giant color screen. You absolutely weren't watching movies on this thing. But it prioritized getting work done in a way that, frankly, no one had ever seen before. It did one thing better than absolutely anyone else on the planet, creating this distinct BlackBerry advantage. First up, instant email delivery. Getting your emails pushed instantly to a device on your hip, that was practically magic back then. Second, that incredibly fast, tactile, physical keyboard. And third, unmatched platform security. So the takeaway here is that this wasn't just some fun gadget you'd play with on the weekend. It was an ironclad business tool. Governments, global banks, major corporations, they trusted this platform so implicitly that professionals flat out refused to leave home without one. Section 2. The golden age, unstoppable market dominance. Flash forward to the mid-2000s and the energy surrounding this device is just palpable. Seriously, you couldn't walk through a busy airport terminal, sit in a corporate boardroom, or even watch an international political summit without seeing people frantically typing away on those iconic little keyboards. It became so incredibly ubiquitous that it spawned a massive cultural phenomenon. People called it the crackberry. It was this super popular nickname reflecting the intense attachment and, honestly, the downright addiction users developed for these fast-typing devices. It just perfectly illustrates how essential this piece of tech became to modern work life. People were literally glued to their screens. But if you look closely, while they seemed completely unstoppable from the outside, a massive blind spot was quietly forming in the background. RIM's leadership truly believed that customers would always prioritize keyboards, email, and security above everything else. Success can be incredibly blinding. They'd completely won the corporate world, and they just assumed the rules of the game they just mastered would simply never change. It was a dangerous, silent hubris hiding right behind their record-breaking sales numbers. Section 3. The touchscreen revolution. The game changes. Okay, so the year is 2007. Apple walks onto a stage and introduces the very first iPhone. Now, at first, there was heavy skepticism from industry observers, and especially from BlackBerry's own leadership team. I mean, the iPhone didn't even have a physical keyboard. Plus, it was wildly expensive. But see, Apple wasn't just trying to make a better mobile email device. They were entirely redefining what a pocket computer could be. The two philosophies were in stark contrast. BlackBerry rigidly maintained its strict focus on physical keyboards and email, pure, unadulterated utility. Meanwhile, Apple ushered in this wild new era of massive touchscreens and app ecosystems. Consumers were suddenly demanding an entire digital lifestyle experience, web browsing, rich media, and just endless applications. And right on Apple's heels, Android manufacturers started flooding the market with a huge variety of these new touchscreen devices. The tide was officially turning. Section 4. Why the King Fell. The Cost of Stubbornness. Now I want to be really clear about something here. BlackBerry did not fail from a lack of engineering talent. No way. They failed because they severely underestimated the sheer speed at which customer expectations can flip. When you look at the anatomy of this decline, it's pretty stark. First, they stubbornly invested in old features, basically doubling down on exactly what made them successful in the past. Second, they underestimated those rapidly changing consumer expectations. They really thought the business world would just stay loyal to the physical keyboard forever. Third, when they finally woke up and realized they needed to pivot, they struggled immensely with some really difficult software transitions. Fourth, their new modernized product launches simply hit the market way too late. And finally, because of all this fumbling, they completely lost the vital developer community to rival platforms. Market share plummeted. Store displays emptied out as Android and Apple raced ahead. And just like that, the smartphone king gradually lost its crown.
Section 5. A New Direction. Survival Through Reinvention.
But here's the twist. The hardware battle was totally lost, sure, but the company itself, it didn't die. Instead, they executed one of the most massive pivots in tech history, moving completely away from the consumer smartphone hardware market. The modern BlackBerry we have today is entirely different. Their focus is now squarely on enterprise technology. Today, they're a major player in cybersecurity, securing vast corporate and government networks. They provide deeply secure communications platforms for huge organizations, and they develop critical software for connected vehicles and embedded systems. So they've proven that while they might no longer sit in the palms of our hands, they remain a highly vital behind-the-scenes player, keeping the modern digital world running securely.
Section 6. Final Lessons. Adapting to Survive.
So what can we actually take away from all this? Well, we can extract 4 critical business lessons directly from BlackBerry's dramatic rise and fall. First, never, ever get too comfortable with your current success. The exact moment you think you're untouchable is the exact moment you're the most vulnerable. Second, actively listen to changing customer behavior. Even if your current customers are perfectly happy today, you have to watch where the broader market is heading. Third, remember that ecosystems and user experience matter deeply. Having great, secure technology just isn't enough if the user experience feels clunky or outdated. And finally, number 4, reinvent to avoid disappearing. Sometimes letting go of the very thing that made you famous is quite literally the only way to survive the future. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember this quote. Behind every decline are lessons waiting to be learned. Every corporate failure, every dramatic fall from grace, it isn't just a piece of history to read about. It is a blueprint. It's a literal case study for future entrepreneurs and leaders to study closely so they don't end up making the same fatal missteps in their own industries. Which leaves us with one final, kind of haunting thought to ponder as you look at your own business, your own career, or your own capacity to innovate. Is today's success ever truly guaranteed tomorrow?